Let me ask you this. Do you feel you're really, truly in control of your decisions? That each choice you make is the reflection of your authentic self? In a world flooded with opinions, distractions, noise, the lines between personal agency and external influence blur more than ever, because behind every scroll, click, or decision lies a system preying in your attention. Yet, amid the skills, one skill that can act as your compass is discernment. It's your ability to pause, reflect, and intentionally aligning your decisions with your values. But here's the catch. The same word that celebrates freedom of choice has also mastered the art of manipulation. Now, discernment isn't really just about resisting the obvious manipulation. It's about recognizing the subtle ways our choices are influenced. It's about questioning the why behind every yes and no, and what does it mean to live intentionally in a world designed to keep us reactive. So let's explore the tools that you are going to need to take back your autonomy. Hmm? Have you ever paused to think about how much of your life is really dictated by external forces? It's not just the obvious things like ads, media, but subtle nudges that shape the way we buy, how we feel, and even the way we think we are. Discernment helps us to reclaim agency in a world where manipulation is so pervasive that it feels normal. And that's why precisely this skill is vital today. Today's video is part one of a three-part series that I will call The Art of Discernment, Building an Intentional and Grounded Life, I think. And today we're going to be uncovering why discernment is no longer just a desirable skill, but an essential tool in our hyper-connected world. Then next week, we will dive into reclaiming your energy and attention from the forces that are subtly manipulating it. And then the third video will explore that how discernment is not just about defense, but is a foundation for creating a life rooted in clarity, confidence, and purpose. Now, imagine a life where your choices aren't dictated by algorithms, trends, and societal pressures, but by your own inner compass. That's the kind of life you will live if you utilize your discernment. But before we can master it, we need to understand how it's being undermined in first place, right? By the end of the series, you will have a clear understanding of why cultivating this skill further is no longer optional, but essential. This is the thing. When we think about discernment, we naturally assume it's something innate because we use normally, naturally, when we face decisions that we need to take. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Every industry in this modern world, the news, shopping, social media, streaming services, they're all designed to bypass your discernment. Take social media, for example. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok use algorithms that employ intermittent reinforcement, a psychological principle that makes gambling addictive, for example. This design keeps us hooked, chasing that next unpredictable dopamine hit. And streaming platforms outplay the next episode before you can decide to stop watching. I do hate that. And shopping apps, for example, bombard you with flash sales that create a false sense of urgency. Seriously, Cyber Monday, every Monday? In the reality, your attention is their currency. Yep. A 2019 study in Nature Human Behavior highlighted how those platforms hijack our reward system, trapping us in cycles of unconscious engagement. Unless we actively protect our ability to discern, we risk being led by forces that do not have really our best interests at heart. Now consider the phenomenon of infinite scrolling. Yeah, it's a thing. Social media platforms use this design to eliminate the natural stopping points, keeping you engaged far longer than intended. A 2021 report found that users spend an average of 2.5 hours a day on social media, a time that could be spent on relationships, hobbies, or self-care, for example. Now, how even simple conveniences like autoplay or suggested recommendations gradually strip away your ability to pause and make conscious decisions. Think about that. You see, the more you become aware of these patterns, the more equipped you will be to resist their pull and prioritize what really matters for yourself. Now, let's have a look at something here. What really happens when our discernment weakens? First, we lose clarity. We find ourselves overwhelmed by choices, unsure of what really truly matters. This leads us to saying yes to commitments that drain us and no to opportunities that could nourish us without even realizing. This loss of clarity also impacts our emotional well-being. And when we are bombarded with options or overwhelmed by obligations, it's not just our schedules that suffer, it's also our mental health. That's for sure. In fact, studies have shown that decision fatigue can lead to chronic stress and even burnout. The less clear we are about what really matters, the more likely we are to feel unfulfilled, even when we're busy. Second, we do lose our sense of connection to ourselves and to those that matters most. The constant distractions pulls us in every direction, making it harder for us to hear our own inner voice. Consequently, relationships start to suffer as we scroll through dinner, check work emails during family time, or remain mentally checked out during a conversation. Now, this loss of connection also creates a ripple effect. When we are distracted or overwhelmed, our ability to form meaningful relationships also diminishes. Studies in attachment theory reveals that present, attentive interactions are the key to building trust and intimacy. Without discernment, we're not just losing moments, we are really losing the depth and the quality of our connections. Do you see how pricey this is? And most dangerously, we lose our autonomy. Without discernment, we are no longer living our lives. We are really just reacting to someone else's agenda constantly. You see, our brains are not really equipped to handle the complexity and pace of today's world. Actually, Bowlby's attachment theory reveals that we instinctively seek safety and approval from caregivers during the childhood period of our lives. Then, as an adult, those instincts persist, making us susceptible to external validation. You see? Then social media exploit this by encouraging a craving for likes, shares, and follows, even when we know it's unhealthy. And the news outlets capitalize on confirmation bias, the tendency to seek information that aligns with our beliefs to keep us glued to the stories. And don't even get me started with the shopping platforms that overwhelm us with options, inducing decision fatigue and causing us to default to recommendations rather than deliberate choices. This is really awful. A 2020 paper in the Frontiers in Psychology showed how those tactics contribute to stress, burnout, and even depression. And no one is immune, really. Discernment is hard because it requires us to override deeply ingrained cognitive and emotional responses, a task that demands an intentional effort. This is compounded by a pace of modern life We're inundated with information at a rate that our brains never were really designed to handle. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? The average person consumes more data in a day than someone in the 18th century would encounter in their whole lifetime. Just put this in perspective for a second. Discernment then becomes an act of self-preservation, a way to filter out the noise and to focus on what truly deserves our attention. Now, let's talk about something different here, but related with this issue: duality. Duality is the idea that opposing forces like light and dark, truth and deception exist simultaneously in the world that we live in. In today's world, this duality has become more visible than ever. Technology connects us, yet isolate us. Social media amplify our voices and also fuels division. Do you see what I'm saying? Discernment acts as a bridge between these opposites because it allows us to observe the duality without becoming consumed by it. And without it, we fall into extremes, either blindly trusting everything or completely shutting out the world. Neither approach serves us. True discernment lies in finding balance, recognizing manipulation, and choosing paths that honor our values. Now, the challenges of duality isn't really new. This theme has been explored in spiritual tradition and philosophies for centuries, really. What's new is the intensity with which we experience today. Navigating this requires not just intellectual understanding, but emotional resilience. That's for sure. Discernment is the practice of actually measuring and holding space for both light and dark, truth and deception, and choosing what aligns with our highest values. Technology, as its best, is a tool for connection and growth. But when we lack discernment, it becomes a source for division and disconnection. The challenge is learning to engage with these tools in ways that serve us, not enslave us. This is where discernment shines. It helps us to navigate duality with wisdom and balance. Discernment isn't really a fixed trait. It's a skill and can be developed. You can start by asking yourself, does this align with my values? Am I acting out of intention or impulse? Who benefits from this decision? And next time you're scrolling online, take a moment and ask, why am I seeing this? Who put this here? And for what purpose? With practice, this awareness becomes a second nature, empowering you to navigate life with clarity and control. Now, strengthening discernment is a journey. I think I don't have to say that. It's not about getting everything right every time, but it's about cultivating the awareness and the intention. And like anything, the more you practice, the more natural it will become. And you will be able to spot manipulation and align your choices with your inner truth. And I must also emphasize, this is not just about avoiding harm, but most importantly, it's about actively creating a life that reflects your deepest values. Building discernment is really like a muscle. It requires consistent practice and intentional effort. So I'm gonna offer you 5 actionable steps to assist you strengthening your discernment from now on, immediately. Limit your inputs. Curate your environment by unfollowing accounts or sources that drain your energy. Choose your information that aligns with your values and boundaries. That's so important. Ground yourself daily. Practice meditation, journaling, or even a simple walk can really reconnect you with your inner voice. The more grounded you are in your body, the less susceptible you will be to external distractions. And every time you say no to something that's not aligned with your values, you're saying yes to yourself. And often your body provides as well signals before your mind even can process. So start by paying attention to the physical sensations you have when you're making decisions. They are often your own intuition speaking with you. It's also helpful to engage with people who value intentionality rather than react to everything. When your environment supports clarity, discernment becomes a natural response rather than an uphill battle. Now, building discernment requires discipline and patience. I guess you realize this by now. Each step you take, whether it's journaling to clarify your thoughts, meditating to quiet the noise, or learning to embrace stillness, it strengthens your ability to recognize what really truly matters. And then over time, these practices become second nature, empowering you to act with clarity. And as we wrap this part one video of the discernment series, I want to say that discernment can really transform your life. What would you gain if you truly trust all your decisions? What would you let go if distractions no longer dictated your day? This is quite big. And discernment isn't just a tool, it's a gateway to living with purpose and integrity. And I think it's about aligning your life with what truly matters and navigating a complex world with clarity and courage. So, next time you're faced with a choice, whether it's to read, to buy, or how to spend your time, remember that discernment is your superpower because it is. And each intentional choice brings you closer to living a life that reflects your true self. And that, above all, is worth striving for. At least I think so. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.